All right, welcome to another episode of Warrior versus Zombie. And today I have another amazing guest, Sally Reid, and I'll talk to you about her in just a second. But first, let's talk about why you're here. So, success is a journey, it's not a destination. As warriors, we all have a history of ups and downs, wins and losses that are all part of making us who we are up to this point, and they provide a foundation for our path forward. We all battle our inner zombie as well as those zombies in our world. And in each episode, I interview warriors from all walks of life. I have entrepreneurs, artists, health practitioners, business owners, literally any inspired leader that has a story to tell. These warriors have a cause, they have unique value and a vision that goes generations into the future, and today's guest is no exception. Let me tell you about Sally Reid is an incredible warrior. She's a quantum alignment coach who helps people heal emotionally and physically when other methods of healing have failed them. Her 35-year warrior journey includes degrees from the universities of Colorado and Sedona, along with a near-death experience, got to hear about that, that
Two of them.
afterward, two near-death experiences that had to expanded her natural psychic ability. She discovered that she was able to see energy flow in the body and easily trace energetic patterns through space and time to the origin of any issue, where she can realign the patterns to the highest good for her clients who feel unfulfilled, lost, stuck, or broken. Sally reignites spark and passion for life by reconnecting her clients with their own unique truth, locating problems in 5 minutes or less. She uses her superpower to align her client's journey with their ideal day in 12 weeks or less. Sally Reid, welcome to Warrior versus Zombie. How's things in Nashville today?
Well, it's actually really a gorgeous day. It's spring in Nashville. Yay. And I love it.
Yeah, so have you been in Nashville
About
a
10 years.
long time? Okay, about 10 years. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Well, actually 12 years.
Yeah, the singer songwriter that is for this podcast, the theme song, Ricky Jean Wright, he's always talking about Nashville and how it's not the same today as it was back in the heyday and all that stuff.
Everything
So,
changes, but
yeah,
Nashville is still incredible. It's
yeah,
still incredible. You can't stay stuck, people. You got to keep moving forward.
yeah, no kidding.
No
That's
living in the past.
That's the warrior journey, right? We all have obstacles on the way. Change occurs, and we all keep moving forward. Well, good. I'm glad things are going well for you. I want to quickly take a break here for the audio audience, hear a little bit of Ricky Jean Wright, and we'll come back and we get to hear your story after the break. So let's take a quick break, listen to a little Ricky Jean Wright, and we'll be right back with Sally Reid and Warrior versus Zombie. All right, we're back. And Sally, nice check in. Glad we're getting ready to go on this journey. I can't wait to hear your story. So let her rip. Let me tell me about how you got to where you started, whatever you want to make as the starting point, and take us to today.
I'm ready.
Okay, go for it.
So here's what a lot of us notice somewhere between, say, our 20s are struggle, right? We're just going to say for a lot of us, the 20s are struggle. But then the 30s, it starts getting really exhausting. and what I didn't realize is that number one, I was psychic. Number two, I'm like a physical and emotional empath. I feel everybody else's stuff. At the time, I didn't realize it was everybody else's. I thought it was mine. And I literally thought I was insane. I thought I was crazy. In fact, I went to a psychiatrist to find out how crazy I was. I thought I was schizophrenic. Thank goodness she quietly told me, no, in fact, you're psychic. And and if you don't like it, ask God to take it back. It's a gift from God. And if you don't like it, ask God to take it back. And, I tried and God would not take it back, unfortunately. But I came to understand, thanks to other people's research, that there's a lot of people like me. There's like 18 to 20% of living humans on this planet are hypersensitive to other people's stuff. They're known as highly sensitive people.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them, interestingly enough, are entrepreneurs. A lot of them are, because we don't like being told what to do very well. We
Mm-hmm.
don't like to follow directions that we can instantly see are stupid, right? So a lot of us struggle deeply. So how did that bring me to where I am now? Well, I did struggle. And it took me a long time to get out of myself, but I learned a bunch of hacks. I learned a bunch of interesting things. And a lot of it was due to the fact that I had my second near-death experience. The first one was when I was a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what must have really made me hypersensitive to everything. But then the second one was back in 1999. And when, basically what I did was, everybody wants to know. So I'll say, because I
Yeah,
wasn't
I
going
was
to
gonna
say
say share with the audience
a
those
little.
experiences, those triggers, if you will. I think that would be of value because maybe some other people have had experiences and.
Oh, they would have triggers. And here's the trigger thing. Um, I came to understand that everybody doesn't have like gut intuitions, like, when somebody's going to call, or when something's going to go bad, or those little things. That's the first thing you notice. Or you feel the temperature of a room when you walk in, or you're an amazing people skill reader, or all these other things that you think are normal. But
Mhm.
from my near death experience, what happened is I was a horse trainer, a professional horse trainer, and I had a horse jump out from underneath me, and I broke my neck, two vertebrae in my neck, C3 and C4. And then I chipped C5 a little bit, but that doesn't count. And C4 was like broken right through the foramen, like a death sentence, because C4 keeps you, like you're paralyzed. But interestingly enough, I passed out. I had my experience. I don't need to go into that. But then I got up and I walked around with my neck that broken
Wow.
for approximately 8 hours. It was a scary miracle. And the next morning, when I went into the orthopedic surgeon, because I had broken my arm too, he freaked out. And like, he screamed at me for a long time, asking me how I was still living. And so it literally was a miracle. And that, of course, if one experiences a miracle that firsthand, it rocks you back on your heels a little bit, ooh, now what? Ooh. So I became a little more deep, a little less surface. And that's what started me on my quest, my understanding.
So
What is life about?
was this the first one or the second one?
It was my second near death experience. My first one was I was a child, and I had surgery. And back in that period, which was the late 1950s, they
Hmm.
used ether on children.
I'm almost, I had the same experience. So that's one of the reasons why I was asking. We're of the same vintage. So
We are.
yeah.
And they killed me with ether. And then they freaked out that they killed me with ether. And the one where you're above, and looking down, going, oh, what are all those adults doing? Yeah, that was the first near death experience. And then going to the golden room in the heaven, it was just textbook. It was
Yeah,
great.
my experience, I don't remember that as much, but I remember, and I nobody ever said that I was dead. Although I can clearly remember I was 5 years old, and I remember them saying, "Oh, he's waking up. You got to put him back out," because I was choking. Actually, I woke up coughing up. It was a tonsillectomy, is what it was.
Oh,
And I woke up and I was aspirating the blood that something had broken in a thing, and it was killing me. I don't know that I actually died from it, but and I don't have like the some of the afterlife or the those
the
kinds of,
golden room. Yeah,
yeah, the golden
it's a
whatever.
place.
But I can remember them talking about me like I wasn't there, and I was only 5, so I remember that. So yeah, okay, I get it. All right, so
Yeah,
that.
it's easy to do. Death,
Mhm.
it's very simple. But what was interesting about the second one is it gave me an interesting kind of two worlds perspective.
Mhm.
I've discovered that I could slip out into a new form of perspective. And that's when I figured out how to see energy and feel it. I
Hmm.
started out by feeling it with my fingers, and then I was able to feel it with my essence, so to speak. And then I was able to actually trace it with colors and moments, and just there it is. There's the problem. And since, if you listen to quantum physics, we are all at the tiniest level, just energy,
Right.
right? Well, we're
Yes.
matter right now, unless you're really, we're super
Well,
accelerated. And
we're generally seeing the matter, but we're more energy than we are matter, right?
right.
The particle is a particle. I mean, if you look at, I mean, I have advanced degrees and a lot of things. I've done a lot of research, so I'm totally tuned into the fact that the energy is all around us, within us, outside us, and we're all connected, and the
Yeah,
whole
it's cool.
space time continuum, and
And you can go and like people talk about ayahuasca ceremonies and other stuff, and it helps you change your perception. Well, for some reason, I'm able to do that without needing drugs. I can just go there and do research. Like I can see the levels where I can see the auras of energy. I can see it flow. It's very bizarre. I don't do it very often because it's unnecessary. It's like a parlor trick. Now I actually just reach the origin, or where for example, my clients have a certain experience, and that experience causes resistance, fear, something is getting in the way. Even though you're working really hard, even though you're trying really hard, you just can't seem to get it done. Well, that's where somebody like me comes in,
Mhm.
and I can trace where the bump is and just
Okay, so
turn it into.
we're kind of talking about what you're doing. I really want to hear a little bit more because, and I'll explain to you why. Is so one of my, I don't remember which episode. One of my guests, Karen Shamai. One of the things, she has a day job, but she also is an energy practitioner. Known her for a long time, and she's got an episode in this series a little while back. And how did you, I mean, how did
How
that
did I?
become, how did it become a thing? Tell me about number one,
Oh,
the thing, doing what you're doing. And also I want to hear, and the listeners always want to hear, what kind of zombies did you overcome? What kind of challenges? Zombie is just a metaphor.
oh,
Okay.
yeah,
What
I
kind
had
of
some
things that you've
challenges.
experienced in the journey? It sounds like you realized relatively early that you had this gift, and or this ability, this unique value, as I call it, that
But
maybe
I thought
others.
it was. Here's the thing
Insanity,
about
right?
the unique gift, the value. I thought it was an Achilles heel.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it made me too sensitive for the world. I mean, like I thought that I wasn't able to function in
Mm-hmm.
our world, and that I was unemployable,
Right.
or and technically I am, and so are you, right?
Yeah. Well, I was employed for many years, but yes,
We want to do our own thing.
at this juncture, retirement to me is not doing nothing. It's doing what I want, when I want, with who I want, where I want. I've been doing it for 16 years. So getting me off of that path at this juncture, and the belief that I'm fulfilling my life purpose doing what I'm doing, is a hard thing. So I get that, and every warrior I think listens to this will resonate with that. But they also, want to know. I know I've got other, like you said, there's a lot of people who have these gifts. There's a lot of people who have these challenges. I mean, I had ADD and I never even, it was never diagnosed. I didn't know it.
No, you
I
just
just
figure it
thought,
out.
and the thing is, it was an asset, but it can be perceived as a limitation. My
Mhm.
number three daughter, she is an amazing empath, amazing person. She's my middle daughter, right brain, you know, very creative, very, but in eighth grade, they said she's not going to graduate with her class. She can't, she doesn't think like everybody else. And I said, well, that's unacceptable that you would think that, because she's not going to a special school, and we're going to figure out how that she's going to graduate with her class. And oh, by the way, she did. And oh, by the way, she's amazing in her own way and has
See?
gifts that they don't. So tell me about, I'm not, I don't want to be
Okay.
prescriptive, but I kind of want to hear that. That's really important.
Okay. Well, the main thing is like we understand how affected we are by what we're told, who we're told we are. We are very affected by that.
Hmm.
And all humans walk around with this mask of, I am, you are this, you are that. And the biggest challenge that I had, and what really opened me up, is during that near death experience and during my ability to bilocate into other universes,
Hmm.
I was able to see that I wasn't those things. And I didn't have to function in those rules. And that is the big realization that many of the people who move from zombie to warrior need to see in their own special way. So for my particular thing, I didn't have to struggle for money. I didn't have to follow everybody else's rules. If I could see the shortcut, take the shortcut. For heaven's sakes, people, don't follow those rules. Don't be a good girl or a good boy. Just, and so then I had to realize that it was okay for me to stand up and share the gifts. Because as you know, women of a certain age are taught to be in the background. We are taught to be, I literally, my mother said to my face, what are you thinking? You're put on this earth to serve men. Put your hand down. Stop trying to, be smart. Just do what you know what I mean? And
Hmm.
so that's the next challenge, overcoming that severe and early submission training
Hmm.
that many women get. And how I overcame that is simply by saying, what if there were no difference? What if it's just a spirit? Because I could see people's spirits.
Hmm.
So my spirit it weighs just as much as everybody else's spirit. It's just as valuable. My gifts are different. They're not in competition. And that's the next thing through the zombie to the warrior, is that you realize you're not in competition. You simply have to be who you are, and honor who you are, and then trust it. That's the biggest hurdle of all, is be, then honor, and then trust it, and just let it be, let it go forward. And that's, of course, there were some interesting stories, like during the swine flu. Remember the swine flu in
Well, I
2005?
have a very vivid memory because at that time I was running a school, and yes, I remember because I had to shut the school down for a week because 25% or more of our student body and teachers were infected. So I remember the swine flu very well. Yes.
Yeah, it was fun. Well, I caught it
Hmm.
because my beautiful teenagers brought it home to me. And they weren't very sick at all, but I got very, very sick, and um, was listening. Oh, and the next thing is, when I was able to go to this other realm, there were, and I'm just going to say this, beings who spoke to me.
Hmm.
They, they'd say, no, do this, or no, don't do that, or yes, do this, or you're on the right track, or no, go, they give me information. And now they were saying, excuse me, you are dying. And I would say, yes, I'm aware, but I don't want to do the work you're telling me to do, which is stand up and help people heal in this very unusual way. I mean, what are these people going to think of me?
Hmm.
I was still stuck there. That's
Hmm.
another thing, zombie hurdle you have to go through. Who
Hmm.
cares what people think of you? Just do what you are. Just do it.
One of the biggest hurdles, zombies. And by the way, zombie is not, we're always on that journey. So we're all infected, as I say. It's just a metaphor. And basically, we have this subconscious, the energy that's programming from our past, that if we're not moving forward with our own intention, will drive us forward. And many people are trying to herd zombies, and we could get into that. I mean, we talk about
Yeah. They
discovering these
try to
things.
get you to follow their agenda.
Yeah, it's not just men and women anymore, guy. I'm just telling you, they're trying to blur
Yeah.
the lines of what is a man, what is a woman, mainly because the authoritarians in our world want you to toe the line. You're saying you're a heretic right now. You're
Yeah,
saying
I am.
follow your intuition, follow your
Follow
intent,
what you know is true.
following what you know is true. That's
Yeah.
what we're fighting against, whether we realize it or not, every day right now, because people are saying, no, 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 you can't think like that. You can't do that. It may
And
have been back
I just
in
answer, oh,
our
yeah.
day. In our day, it might have been, here's the role of a man and here's the role of a woman, and you have to follow the, like you were saying. On the other hand, today, it's like, oh, that's not the important thing. It's like the collective or the government, or, this isn't political. This is control and good
It's
versus
about
evil type of
power.
stuff. Yeah, it's
It's all
power.
about
It's a
power.
power and control. And you can't have power if you can't control. And so
But you
anyway,
don't need power. That's what's so amazing. The realm in which I was able to connect made it so clear to me that all of us have our own power. And the only reason we don't have it is because we give it to somebody else.
exactly.
And so I'm going to finish what happened. So as I'm
Yeah.
lying in the bed and I understand that I am dying because the
Mhm.
voice is telling me I'm dying. And I'm saying, yes, I'm quite happy to die because I don't want to fulfill this destiny that you're asking, I don't want to do this purpose. I don't want to heal people. Who am I to heal people? Who am I to change people's lives? I don't know any of that. And so the voice tells me, you're not going to die. I'm not going to let you. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not getting up. And then the voice answers back and says, oh yeah, watch this, essentially. 3 seconds later, my teenage daughter walks in the door, sees that I'm blue, bodily drags me out of the bed and into the hospital. So I'm like, okay, now I'm stuck. I absolutely have no control, but I have to do this. And that's when I got serious, is after 2005. I said, okay, uncle, you win. I will do this. And that is when I learned that it's a lot easier than I thought it was. And that is the next zombie hurdle that
Mhm.
we all need to learn is we're always complicating everything. We
Right.
make it so freaking hard. And half the time it isn't hard at all. It either is or it isn't. On the universe, at the level of where I work, everything is just a one or a zero, literally like a computer. It either is or is not.
Mhm.
Either have it or don't. It's your choice. That's how simple it is. It's that
That's
simple.
incredible. Any other things along your journey? That's pretty fascinating. You don't know me we don't know each other that well.
No.
Interesting. You said in 2005, because in 2005 is when I retired, and so our timelines are more aligned than I realized as well.
Yeah.
And I said I lost what I call peace with the path that I was on, because I could see, and in my mind, I didn't have necessarily any voices except the spirit. See, I'm a Christian, so I believe that we're
Mm-hmm.
all connected energetically, spiritually, and
Well,
these
the voice told me it was
and these
God, by the way.
yeah, and these voices are audibly, I mean, basically it's very similar in terms of my story was very, I mean, what do you mean? I'm making all this money. I live in this big house. I'm doing all this stuff. 4 of my 5 kids are still in school. What do you mean I'm gonna retire?
Mm-hmm.
And I said no, I'm not. But I couldn't get
You
past
can't
it. So
ignore
it's a
it.
different experience, and we're unique and different individuals, but we do have a unique path, and we do have
We
a
do.
unique thing that we're supposed to have. Well, let's do this, because I can tell you're just chomping at the bit to talk about what you're doing and how you're doing it,
Well,
you
I
can
did
reflect.
want to add something.
Go for it.
Remember when I broke my neck and I walked around for eight
Right.
hours?
Hmm.
I always consider that my dope slap from God. It's like, watch what I can do if you don't listen to me. I can kill you and then you don't die.
Yeah.
So, and that's the voice when it first came to me. I literally, these are the words. I said, who's talking in my head? And the voice said, I am your Lord. And I'm like, my Lord of what? You know? And I'm like, I don't want to hear this. Seriously. And then the voice answers back. I can't even say it. It's very emotional.
Sure.
I am your Lord God. And I went, like, yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
And it scared the poo-poo out of me. I'm not going to lie. I was terrified for the longest time. And that's why I was so ready to lie in the bed and die in 2005. So I didn't have to get up and serve. Do you know what I mean? I was like,
I
this is
totally know
this is
what you mean.
not the Bible times. I am not going to do this.
Right. No, we have so many common experiences in maybe different ways. Uh, we've dealt with them in different ways and believed them. But yeah, I mean, I totally get it. Well, let's do this. Let's take a quick break, and we'll come right back. And I want to hear about kind of what you're doing. You can feel free to bring in, any of the, things that we missed in your story, but I want to hear about, I'm really fascinated by your healing process, the energetic, some of the things you mentioned, the 5 minutes and 12 weeks to get things aligned.
Yeah, it's cool.
I want to hear a little bit about that. So, anyway, let's take a quick break. Hear a little more of Ricky Jean Wright. We'll be back with Sally Reid and Warrior versus Zombie. Wow, it's brilliant because there's one of the things about these warrior journeys when I talk, and one of the reasons why I like to hear the story is because when you're telling your story and you tell about your journey and then you talk about what you're doing today or what you as a warrior, it's amazing the lessons that are communicated that not only inform what you're doing today, but also help us get even more ability to understand what you're doing. So this whole area of energy, I have to admit to you, gosh, I don't even know. It's probably been about 6 or 7 years ago. And the person I mentioned that was my podcast guest, she was into that energetic, and I thought it was woo woo and just, nothing. But I did for a while, we did some Facebook Lives that I called it something for dummies or whatever. And I just asked a bunch of dumb questions, and I had two practitioners, and they would enlighten me as to kind of how what I was hearing and things that it actually all connected with a lot of other stuff that I already believed, but just hadn't processed it. So share with me what you're doing today, this whole practice that you have, the modality you use, the stuff like that. I really want to hear that.
Okay. Well, I call myself a quantum alignment coach. There is such a thing, if you Google it, something known as a quantum alignment machine. And
Mm-hmm.
what it does, if you hook yourself up to it, it reads how your energy flows in your body, and it tells you what either a thought pattern, whatever. It's just for grins and giggles. I raced that machine one day.
Mm-hmm.
The machine was in Paris, and I was here in Nashville, and the person was hooked up to the machine in Paris. And I read the person, and the person and the machine started at the same time. I came up with the answer faster and more in depth than the machine. So that's when I started calling myself a quantum alignment coach, because the machine could only tell you it was wrong. It couldn't tell you what to do next. It couldn't see a future path. It could only see a now path, right? Because it's a machine. So the modality that I do is I trace the energy of people's thought patterns, generally through their words, because I'm an auditory person. Okay. But everybody's words, like if I say, what do you have and don't want, or what do you want and don't have? That's how I start a lot of my things, because I know nothing about you.
Sure.
But, like I want sales and I don't want blah, blah, blah. Right. That's common. And then I'll ask a question, and I'll be able to trace what the thought patterns are, or what the moments are, or what this belief is. Because most of the time when people are having a problem, it's because there is like a governor. Like pretend you're an engine and you've got a governor, and you can't always put your gas down because your brain is keeping you safe, but you forgot why you're being kept safe.
Yeah, that's the zombie brain. The zombie brain actually is intended to keep you moving forward, but keep you alive. So it is based,
Yeah,
it very much is based on fear and survival, and not the embracing of possibility and the
that's it
full
exactly.
impact, right?
And so usually, and actually, dare I say, always, I can identify precisely what the issue is in less than 5 minutes.
Wow.
And depending on how tenaciously you hold on to your zombie beliefs, I can have them removed from your body within 12 weeks. And it's layers upon layers upon layers. And so here's an example. Frequently, in a single session, a lot of things will change. And the interesting thing about what I do is we don't have to relive moments. You don't have to remember anything. You don't have to see anything. I just have to have the identification of it. And then through different processes, but generally it's inverse wave,
Hmm.
like in physics,
Hmm.
when you do the inverse
Yeah.
wave, disruptive wave action.
Hmm.
So I'll find the wave pattern and then I'll invert it and erase it, is generally how it looks like to me. The energy does not come from me. I'm
Hmm.
sorry. The energy comes from there.
Right.
So it's not me. And I can't claim that it is. I just am simply a radio or a conduit,
Hmm.
or I'm a tool, is what I was told.
Well, we are. We all are. Again,
Yeah.
I don't beat people over the head with my belief system, my Christianity, and that kind of thing. But we're all just a tool, um, that we're to flow through, not and give
I
people
was
the
told I was a
opportunity.
radio.
Yeah. Well,
I'm a radio.
however you want to label it, I get it. I get the what you're, to some degree, what you're doing. Obviously, I don't. It's not my uh, gift or my unique values. So when you see it and you erase it, and then what are the
Well, I don't erase. You can't. Okay,
or
let's go back to
yeah,
physics. Matter can neither be created or destroyed. End of story.
correct,
What I do is I release the wave pattern so it becomes neutral.
right, okay,
And that's technically what happens. And yeah, okay, it's not me doing it, but the pattern becomes neutral.
okay,
And from that point, you have the ability to perceive something new. And this is something that's really interesting, and I'm just beginning to notice this, is that oftentimes the pattern has seeds from previous generations. Like it's literally in your DNA, and I'm seeing it in your DNA.
mm-hmm.
Like I have found people who are struggling with, like, I don't know why, but I really da 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 da, and then I'll look at it and go, well, that's not you. That's your grandfather that you're trying to help,
Right.
and that type of thing.
Yeah,
And so,
that epigenetic programming that occurs in the lives of people that precede you, which actually uh, flips various switches in your genetics or your DNA, so that they become manifest in future generations. Yeah, that's why you
yeah,
got to
and
be.
I'm one of the few people I know that can change that. Or if you're having an experience that was installed in your hard drive essentially before age 7 that you don't have access to, I can change that stuff. That's what makes me different, is because I do have access to it. And you don't have to remember it. We don't even have to talk about it. And that's what's amazing. You just have to, I don't know, it isn't acceptance, but it's more of, you have to allow, is the
Mhm.
best word, is you have to agree to possibilities.
Yeah, I understand that part. When I was when Karen was, she said, you have to. I can't do anything if you don't accept it. Or that you're not willing to at least go down the path. So yeah, I kind of get that, and like I said, I understand it enough to be dangerous, but I'm always fascinated by the journey. So how do people, and we'll talk about how they stay in touch with you in the next segment or whatever, but how, in your doing what you're doing, what does that process look like? What do they call you up? Do people refer, how does that all work? in your world?
Well, what's interesting, thank you, Zoom, is I don't have to be on the same continent with whoever I'm working with. I have worked via text message. I have worked via email. I work via Zoom. And essentially, I just have to be able to connect with your energy. And it would be helpful if you're still breathing, because it's very difficult to change after you've died. But I can connect with your spirit after you're dead. But I would, there's not a lot of change happens. So in that, and I also try to restrict my work that I do to humans, although occasionally I do work with animals. Um, because a spirit is a spirit is a spirit is, energy is energy is energy.
Right.
I mean, some people, they can work with trees, or they could work with butterflies, or it doesn't matter. It's just life is life is life.
Right.
Right. And we all follow the basic rules of physics. We have to, at least the ones on this planet.
Yeah, well, again, I believe that we do have a divine order of things, and that there's rules that we can't, that I learned as an engineer, and there's things that I learned in school that I didn't make up, and I know the professor didn't make up. There were a divine architecture there that there were certain rules, and then there were opinions, and then but getting the two confused is one of the things we're pretty good at these days. Well, let's do this. We could do this for a long time. In fact, we may come back with a spotlight episode at some point and really drill down here, because this topic kind of fascinates me. It's just one of those things that I don't understand. But let's take a quick break. I want to come back. And if we learned anything from this podcast, what would you want us to take away? And then I want to hear, how do we stay in touch with you? And I know we are watching this on the Be Connected platform. Whatever extent you're there now, we'll make that. But there are also other ways I know we can stay in touch with you, your website, that kind of stuff. So let's take a quick break, hear a little more Ricky Jean Wright, and we'll be back with Sally Reid and Warrior versus Zombie. All right. Wow. Okay. So this is one of those journeys that my head's spinning. I've got more questions than answers at this point, but that's okay, because that's part of the warrior journey, right? If we got to stay situationally aware and look at things around us, and there's so many things, as I often used to say when I started on my own wellness journey back in 2017, it wasn't the things that I didn't know that were killing me. It's the things that I thought I knew that simply were not true. And maybe this falls into that category, maybe not.
Exactly.
But anyway, so Sally, if we take away anything from this podcast, what would you want us to take away?
It's that exactly. Because the one thing that helped me get freer and more comfortable and more relaxed was to know less and less and less. Approach life like I didn't know jack. You know what?
Yep.
And therefore, I would allow what is actually there to reveal it. Because as you know, study after study says that if you expect something, that's what you're going to see.
Mm-hmm.
And if you
Reticular
don't
activating.
expect it, then you see what's there. So that's the number one thing I want to remind people. If you're stuck in a problem, that's why fresh eyes help on a problem, but actually just go away and just leave that problem alone. And don't expect it to be something. Expect it to just show itself. That is the best thing.
Yeah, when I get stuck many times in my morning ritual, my routine, or even when I'm getting ready to retire, because I also have a shutdown routine as well. And I often, turn it over to God and say, okay, I don't have the answer here. Reveal it to me, either, in the journey or as I sleep, and I can't tell you the number of times that I've come out of the whole process of going through the sleep cycle, where you release a lot of the zombie things. Your mind is a lot more fluid, and I'll come back and say, That was the answer. That was it. I figured it out. And I know that's energetically now, part of the
It's letting
process.
go.
Right.
And once you can learn to do that while you're awake, that's when the real coolness happens.
Well,
And
Sally,
that's how I got
yeah,
where I got.
I think I love your story. Today, in today's world, maybe I've released a lot of things in my own mind, but it sounds a whole lot more, it makes a whole lot more sense to me today than it did, 7 or 8 years ago and earlier. But so how do we, aside from the Be Connected platform, which is where this, resides, but then it'll be on all the other, how do we stay in touch with you?
Well, I have a website.
Okay.
It's sallyreid.com. And if you want to apply to work with me, do /mentorship.
Okay.
I only take people by application. And if you want some guided meditations that I put together for your listeners, go sallyreid.com/my gift.
Okay.
And that's my gift to your listeners. And it's a series of guided meditations to help people get in touch with this in here instead of this or outside world.
Excellent. That's beautiful. And by the way, for those listening, I will be putting those links on the replay. They'll be on the YouTube channel, as well as I'll have sallyreid.com, and you can go to her website and get those. So that'll be a great gift. Thank you for sharing that with the audience. I'm sure that there'll be people that benefit from that. And wow, like I said, we could go for a little bit, and I'm looking forward to it. In about a month, you're going to be doing a mastermind on this, also a show on the Be Connected platform, about an hour and a half we'll have, and that'll be, we can maybe get a little more hands-on. And so if anybody was fascinated by this, encourage you to join that. I think it's May 27th is when we're going to be doing that, 11 o'clock or 11:30 Central. So,
and I can help people, like, remember the 5 minutes? I can help people identify the thing. Here's the thing. Because you know how when you're struggling with something, so if I only knew the thing, if I only knew it, that in itself, then you can solve it. If you know the problem, you can solve it. Because a lot of times people are solving problems that actually aren't the problem. They're the symptoms.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things that I thought I knew that wasn't true, was your symptoms are actually God's way, or your body's way, body, mind, and spirit, right? Of communicating to you something's not right. And muting or focusing on the symptom is almost never the way to get to it. It's getting to the root cause. And the root cause,
bingo,
as you I don't have to say to you and to our audiences, many times it can be energetic, it can be epigenetic, it can be genetic, it can be, there's a lot of things, but
it can be a lot of things.
The whole thing with labeling and then tacking the label usually creates more problems than solutions. So anyway, we are so aligned. For those that are listening on the podcast, we'll have a wind down here, but thank you, Sally, for sharing.
Quite welcome.
I'm honored that we got aligned. It was totally a energetic thing that aligned us and how we got connected. So
yes.
I'm looking forward to what God has in store for us as we go forward together. So with that, we're going to have to land the plane here and hear the last outro of Ricky Jean Wright, and we'll be back next Thursday with another episode of Warrior versus Zombie.